searching for meaning, trying to give purpose to feelings. Need to feel needed. Isn't that the same for all of us? Running in circles, losing my mind twice a week. 'Cause all of this purpose feels like someone else chose it for me. 'Cause I used to think we were happy. Then I woke up. Now when
Boo. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make a start. I apologise in advance for the fact that you can probably hear the laptop breathing. It's just an unavoidable occurrence when I am doing the condenser mic setup, as opposed to my usual through my mixing disc that I use for my live gigs. But we've got much simpler setup tonight because most of what I'm going to be doing tonight is just talking, if we're honest. I'm mostly going to be chatting to you guys with a little bit of playing in between. Because tonight is the Behind the Song stream for Woke Up. So, hello. Welcome to the stream. As usual, I expect it'll take a moment for anybody who is planning to show up tonight to appear in the chat. So I'm going to give people a bit of time to arrive before I get into the meat of the stream. So, I think what we will start with this is the bit where I'm going to discover I put that mic way too close. There we go. Luckily, it moves. It's not nailed down, so I can move it when I do that. Anyway, as I was saying, we shall start tonight's stream with a quick playthrough of the song that we're going to be talking about. Because it makes sense to play the song first, doesn't it? And hopefully, as we do this, all the regulars will slowly trickle in as they always do. Simplest of pleasures, the moments we treasure, things we think matter, none of it quite measures up. Things I've been chasing, they got me racing around, and I can't help thinking there's something I still haven't found. 'Cause I used to think we were happy, then I woke up, now and I picture me happy. I get choked up, and I think I might have been dreaming something I think I should be feeling. I used to think this was happy, then I woke up. Searching for meaning, trying to give purpose to feelings, need to feel needed. Isn't that the same for all of us? I'm running in circles, losing my mind twice a week, 'cause all of this purpose feels like someone else chose it for me. And I used to think this was happy, then I woke up, now and I can see people are arriving now. Okay, got quite a bit of lag tonight. Ah, okay. I mean, I think we've always got a little bit of lag just because I don't think that actually the setup with the connecting via the USB is particularly good for the camera. I think that's what it is. But I am a cheapskate still, and I haven't gotten around to investing in an HDMI cable and the necessary things that go with an HDMI cable, i.e. I was about to say graphics card again, and I did this earlier when I was chatting to my mate Mark about about investing in. But graphics card is not the word I want. What's the capture card? That's the word I want. Capture card. I haven't gotten round to, and probably will not for a little bit, because it isn't quite worthwhile yet to invest in the HDMI cable and the capture card so that I can start using the better quality camera, and maybe even try and set ups with more than one camera if we get really fancy, and two, being able to connect it up in a way that will probably give me less lag. I'm pretty sure that part of why because I do get quite a bit of lag on the streams in general. I guess maybe we're a bit laggier tonight. There was a bit where it was having a bit of an issue with the internet. I think it wasn't getting good signal, but that seems to have calmed down now. But the main issue I think is that ideally I should be connecting up with an HDMI cable will get me less lag, I think, is what I've heard from other people. So yeah, but we haven't invested in that yet because it's not quite worthwhile yet, because we've got a couple of streams for the single release, and I'll probably do some streams when the album comes out, and I might do the occasional songwriting stream, but I'm not streaming on a regular enough basis at the moment that it's worthwhile making those investments when I've got, still got investments to make to fancy up my studio space yet. Anywho, that's not what we're talking about. We're not here to talk about gear. I'm getting distracted talking about gear. Look at me. We are here to talk all things Woke Up. I'm just going to double check on my levels and stuff, make sure that's all right. I think I was peaking a little bit while I was singing there, but that's not shocking. I've set it for conversational sort of levels, but that's not ideal when I then start getting loud in my vocals, is it? These are all things that will improve with time and with the improvement of the studio. Maybe at some point soon I'll actually be able to sort of set up where I'll be able to run a couple of different mics through. So I've got the dynamic for when I'm singing maybe, and the condenser for when I'm chatting. And I'm still hopeful that at some point in the future I'll be able to start live streaming production stuffs. But that I think I would need to upgrade to an actual computer rather than trying to run that off my little MacBook. It doesn't like doing OBS and Logic at the same time. So anyway, not the point. What was the point? What was I talking about before I got distracted? It's a good question, isn't it? Woke Up, obviously. Anyway, so welcome to the stream, guys. This is the behind the song stream for my new single Woke Up. In these behind the song streams we chat about the single, about the inspiration behind the song, the general inspiration, how it started life, and I go through them lyric by lyric, pointing out any fun little notes you guys might want to know about the lyrics, or just explaining what I was trying to say with them, because I think one of the beautiful things about songs is that obviously you can read your own stuff into them, like they're poetry essentially, and you can read your own stuff into any type of poetry, but there is usually something that the author intended. And I'm not one of those literary snobs who's going to sit here and be like, you have to be able to analyse it all yourself and understand it entirely yourself. Sometimes it's nice to have someone literally just sit here and say, this is why I wrote this the way I did, and this is what I wanted it to mean. And if you got that from it, then great, I did my job well. And if you didn't get that from it, then maybe I did my job badly. Or maybe you just saw something else in it that I never would have thought of. Yeah, so, without further ado, let us begin the story of how Woke Up came to be. So I've got my notes here, obviously, because I am a forgetful person and I'll forget to mention something if I don't write it down. So I've mentioned before that this song actually started life as a TikTok prompt. I got a prompt on my TikTok when I was asking people to give me prompts to write songs from, and I got one that was, I used to think we were happy, then I woke up. Sorry, I'm going to say that again without the tripping over my words. I used to think we were happy, then I woke up. Someone gave me that in quotation marks as a prompt, and I thought, okay, they're essentially giving me a lyric to write a song around and an idea. And I got from that prompt, the first thing I thought that I'm pretty sure the person wanted me to write a song about was more of a breakup type song. That was where I felt that prompt was leaning, and so I wrote a song like that. But as I was writing that song, I got more inspiration from that lyric to write a song about something a bit different, and not being about a breakup specifically. I got, feelings about how, because it was something that I was feeling at the time, and obviously I was writing the album that was going with Baby Steps at the time, and a lot of the themes in Baby Steps are very similar to the themes in Woke Up. And I was thinking a lot about tracks going on this album, and so my inspiration from this prompt wound up being more in the vein of, I used to think this life that I'm living was happiness, and then I woke up. Hello, John! You're never late, John. I'm just early tonight because, if we're honest, usually the stream does start around 8:10 because I've usually forgotten to do something that I was meant to do to set up for it and wound up in a panic. But today I actually came up on time to start setting up on time and didn't end up forgetting anything in a panic. So when the camera threw its little fit and decided not to connect up to the laptop straight away, it was okay because we had like 10 minutes to spare where we could have that fight with the camera, which is good. So you're never late, John. Just almost knocked my water over. Anywho, we're just talking about the initial inspiration behind the song again. But yeah, so I wrote Woke Up from that prompt. And I initially wrote the first verse and the chorus was what I wrote for that TikTok prompt. I made a little TikTok video, I popped it up. And I think within about the same week, I'd finished the song. I ended up going back to it pretty much straight away and writing the rest. I can tell because I'm looking at the original. You can tell it's the original because it's absolutely tatty. I need to write this up neat in my book. I started writing it up neat in my book and I haven't finished yet. I just did enough to film it for a TikTok. And then went, right, I'll finish that later, which means it will never get done. But yeah, I need to write it up neat in my book because I got the original tatty piece of paper I wrote it on. And I can tell that I wrote it pretty much straight away because it's not even in different ink or anything. And it's all scribbled out on the paper really fast in that way that I do when I something just comes to me like that. So I know that I wrote this pretty quickly. I did that first verse, chorus, and then I can see a slight change to the handwriting that says that I was at a different angle when I wrote the second verse than the angle I was at in the first verse, because it's slanting a bit differently. Yay! You did purchase the single on Friday when you woke up, did you? I feel like if I was good at the marketing thing, I would have made several TikToks just making woke up jokes by this point, but I need to just come up with a bunch of woke up jokes to just make TikToks of, really, don't I? Anywho. I keep accidentally just, on Monday I decided to make that post, Monday being yesterday, oh my god, on Monday, like that was ages ago, yesterday I needed to make a social media post, and I thought, I'll just make a post about how my day has gone. And I started writing that first sentence of when I woke up this morning. I was just like, that looks like it's a pun, but it literally was not intended as a pun. The inclusion of one of the pictures from the bed shoot that I did for the music video, that was a fully intended pun. Fully intended that one. I did. Good. That means you've listened to the whole song through, so you can understand what we're talking about as we go through it line by line. And I can reference stuff in the recorded track, and you'll actually know what I'm referencing, because obviously the recorded track sounds a bit different from me playing it acoustically, as is always the case. A fully produced track's going to sound different. Biggest difference being that the strings play a massive part in the melody in that section where I'm just doing that on guitar, and the reason why I'm doing nothing with my vocal there, and sometimes I'll throw in some vocal ad-libs when I'm doing this live. Say that like I've played it live a bunch of times. I only played it live a couple of times, but I'll throw in a few vocal ad-libs to fill the space, because that's where the strings are going. Yeah, anyway, so I can talk about all that and you're going to know what I'm referencing. But yeah, so I wrote that verse, chorus, put up that little TikTok, and then very quickly came back and finished the song. And when I finished the song, I knew it was going to go on the album because, like I said, it's following a lot of the same themes that Baby Steps was, and I was building the album around Baby Steps. So as I was writing it, I kind of had that in mind, that I might be putting it on this album that I was working on at the time. And so I really focused on the fact that I decided that this is going to be one of the later tracks on the album. This and Baby Steps are right towards the end. There's literally only one track after them. I think it goes Woke Up, then Baby Steps, then one other track, if I remember correctly. I haven't submitted it all yet, so if I've gotten that wrong, I might be lying, but I have written out a list of the order of the tracks, so I know what order all the tracks going in, because I've actually structured these songs to fit with where they're going on the album. And so part of why Woke Up sounds the way it is, why it is as soft as it is as heavy with the strings as it is, you know, this gentle kind of track, is because Baby Steps is also obviously quite a gentle track, really. It's a fun pop song still, and it's got that nice bass to it, and it's got a good beat in the drums to it, but Baby Steps is overall a very gentle track. It's just a bit more of a fun, optimistic one than this one is, but I didn't want this one to feel sad or like gloomy and you know, I didn't want this idea of I used to think we were happy, then I woke up to be, and now I'm really depressed, you know. I wanted it to have that air of optimism to it. Listen to me speaking all fancy. That air of optimism. Yeah, I wanted it to sound happy, but not like in your face happy the way that Baby Steps sounds quite in your face happy. And part of that was because I knew it was going to go towards the end of the album, that it was going to be one of the last few tracks, that's sort of one of the ones that's going to mellow you out towards the end after you've had some pretty heavy tracks earlier on, because there are a few tracks earlier on that are either very in your face and loud, or they're very heavy in terms of the lyrics, or they're very heavy in terms of they've got quite strong guitar and heavy bass on them. You know, there are some much more rocky tracks earlier in the album, and I wanted it to mellow out as it got to the end, both because I think that fits with like the journey I'm trying to do in the album, of from basically realizing that you're not happy and that your life needs some big changes need to be made to your life, to actually really coming to terms with that and accepting what those changes might have to look like, and being a bit more forgiving of yourself and actually being able to move forward. I think that, you know, those messy emotions are going to sound messier at the start of the album, and the emotions that I'm trying to express in songs like Woke Up and Baby Steps are much calmer ones. They're much more mature, which makes sense because they are the more recent songs that I've written. A lot of the earlier songs on the album, I either wrote them a long time ago and have updated them in time for the album, or I started writing them a long time ago and have rewritten them since so that they fit better with what I was doing, but all of the stuff that was already in them is there and was there to begin with. Yeah, so that was the overall feeling I was going for, and I hope that I've done it quite successfully, because that was why I put so many strings and warm sounds in this. I wanted this to feel really warm and really gentle, and I think it does sound like that, and I hope that is the vibe that everybody gets from it. Let me know if that's the vibe you guys get from it, if you feel what I was trying to make you feel when you listen to this song. Anyway, so that's the overall breakdown. Let's go for the fun bit now, the lyric by lyric bit. So obviously, we've got the first few lines that go, simplest of pleasures, moments we treasure, the things we think matter, none of it quite measures up. And I think that these first couple of lines are a bit different from my normal songwriting style, because I tend to be pretty, I don't tend to be very poetic in my writing. You know, I get a bit poetic sometimes, but most of the time I'm pretty clear with what I say. Usually my lyrics aren't quite as vague as this is. I think this is the vaguest sort of lyrics that I've written, because I think it isn't fully clear what the gist of what I was trying to say was, but basically I was trying to get across that feeling of realizing that that the things that you've maybe been valuing, or the things that you think you're supposed to be valuing, and the things that actually make you happy aren't always the same thing. So the simplest of pleasures, the moments we treasure, versus the things that we think matter, these things, they aren't matching up. And I think I haven't phrased that in the clearest way, so it's more, partially because I was trying to make the words fit nicely in a nice melody. But that was sort of the gist of what I was trying to say with that, was that these simple moments, these simple pleasures, these things that we genuinely actually love and get happiness from, don't measure up to the things that we think we're going to get happiness from. The things that we end up valuing in our lives are not necessarily the things that we actually value in our lives. It's a message you've never heard before, I'm sure. You've heard that message so many times before because everybody's talking about it at the moment, aren't they? We should chase the things that make us happy in life. Yep. And it sort of carries on like that, obviously, because then it goes...
Things I've been chasing, they got me racing around, and I can't help thinking something I still haven't found.
Obviously clarifying there, and that line really clears up what I was trying to say, I think, because it literally says it, the things that I've been chasing, they've got me running around like a headless chicken, they've got me messing up my life in some ways, a lot of the time trying to chase something that we think is going to lead to eventual happiness is actually something that winds up making us miserable in the meantime. And is there any point chasing that dream of what's going to make me happy one day if you're currently miserable? Because what if you never get that thing and then all your life has just been wasted being miserable? It's a happy song. But yeah. And I think we all, we're all doing that a lot in our lives. We're running around chasing these things, but there's always something else to think that we're looking for in our lives. I don't think any of us are ever going to be fully satisfied with our lives, just as they are. We are always chasing something new that's going to make us happy, and we're always looking for something that is going to make us feel something. Anyway, so yeah, pretty standard, that second bit of the verse. And then obviously we go into the chorus from there, so.
I used to think we were happy, then I woke up. Now when I picture me happy, I get choked up.
Pretty self-explanatory for the most part. I am, talking about moments in the past where I thought that certain things were going to make me happy, or moments in the past even when I was happy. That now I look back on and I get emotional about it because I realise either that I wasn't really happy in those times, or that I was just chasing an idea of what my life was meant to be that I thought was going to make me happy and actually wasn't, or that, I'm not happy like I was back then and I should be. I do. I think we all get this. We'll look back at moments when our lives were more like what we actually, well, maybe our lives weren't what we were looking for at the time. We were chasing something different. We thought we weren't happy back then, but we realised that actually those were moments when we were happy, and now we're trying to get back to them. I know a lot of people in my life have expressed exactly the same sort of feeling to me. Feeling like that they've lost that happiness more than anything, and that they need to go back to doing things that they were doing in their childhood, or doing things that they did in their teens, or getting back some sort of feeling or some sort of community that they had in the past. Some people literally going back and trying to rekindle old friendships because they've realised that they let friends slip away just because life happens, and that they were happier when they had those friends. Yeah. And then we get something else to mention. The more interesting, I think, thing there, rather than the lyrics, is actually the chord progression that I do. So for most of the song, I'm doing something like that chord progression. So the verses are all D, A, G, A, except they're not because it's with a capo on, but I can't be bothered remembering what the transpose... I've got the transposed version written down somewhere, but with a capo on the 7th fret, so then the chord progression D, A, G, A, which is a very standard one. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's exactly the same chord progression, just in a different key. You know, I just play that without the capo on for How to Be Happy. It's got the same chord progression, but, you know, just different key. But in the choruses, I don't do what you would maybe expect me to do there, because you've been hearing that for all the verses, and we do use that in the chorus, but you'd be expecting to hear it again in that first line of the chorus. When I saying that, I used to think we were happy, you'd be expecting me to do that more than what I actually do. I used to think we'd be happy. You'd be expecting it to go to that G. So when it goes instead to the C, so instead of going to the G, it goes A, C there. And I think that's the more interesting thing about that part. And you know, I think initially when I started writing it, I was going like that, and it wasn't feeling right for that chorus bit. So me not being the biggest of music theory nerds, I'm sure if you gave me enough time to actually sit down and think about what I did here, I'd be able to tell you why this works and gives that nice open feeling. It feels very open going to the C there, doesn't it? Whereas the G feels very predictable, like we are going down the path that we expected to go down, whereas the C feels more like possibilities are coming, you know? And there'll be a music theory reason behind that if I went and actually sat down and wrote out the first, fourth, fifth chords, worked out what key I was actually in, what the chord progression I'm actually playing is, I'd be able to tell you, it's because I'm playing this chord out of that key. But I can't be bothered doing that. I'm not good enough at music theory to be able to do it off the top of my head. Someone else may well be able to do that. Mark would be able to tell you, because he's very good on his music theory, and one day I'll be the kind of person who is that good on their music theory, because I'm actually studying it again properly. But I knew that I wanted that open feeling, so I was just playing around with chords that I knew were in the key. So I knew I could go to the C in that chord progression, because I've used C's in more usually like that, or like that. I've used them like that before in songs, so I knew that those would work. But I just sort of went, let's see. And I think the thing that really works for it is because you go from the C sharp in the A to the normal C in the C. Obviously, none of these notes actually match up, because we are transposed up 7 frets, 7 semitones, but I can't be bothered transposing it again. Anyway, point being, I think that's the more interesting part, is that chord progression I decided to go with. And then we go to the G. And then we go back to our D, A, G, A. No, just D, A, G for this next part. 'Cause I think I might have been dreaming, something I think I should be feeling. I used to think this was happy, with the C again. Now woke up. And I use it again here because I go from the G to the C again, back to the G. And it sort of opens things up in terms of musically. It musically opens up the song there, I think. So I just thought that was a little fun note that you guys might like, that I was more interested in the chord progression I did here. And it's still, I think, one of my favourite ones I've done for that reason. I don't usually get that fussy, or you know, I'm not a big music theory geek, so I don't get that geeky about the chords and stuff usually. But that one made me feel a bit of a geeky moment, and maybe after the stream I will actually go and figure out what the chord progression I'm actually doing is in terms of this is the first chord, this is the fifth chord, this is the fourth chord, sort of thing. I guess if we were in D, that would be the one chord, wouldn't it? D, E, F, G. G would be the fourth chord. So usually I'd be doing 1, 5, 4, which is a pretty standard one. Whereas C would be the seventh chord. Except it wouldn't. We can't be in D. It would be... because that wouldn't be the seventh chord in a D major key. Would it? It would be... surely it would be a C sharp. It would be that. Then are we not in D? Is that why? But we must be. So in which case it's maybe not even in the key. Anyway, I don't know exactly what I did there. Maybe I'll geek out about Mark with it and ask him to explain to me what I did there. I just know it works and it sounds different and it gave the effect that I wanted. Cool. Anywho, onto that lyric. Because I think I might have been dreaming, something I think I should be feeling. And I think I was sort of hinting at two different things with this lyric. You know, I was thinking about how, sometimes we're sitting there playing around in fantasy lands, playing around in dreamlands that we're happier in than, you know, real life sometimes makes us. A lot of us escape into fantasy. I know I do that a lot. Like I've mentioned in the past that I was very active in fandom as a teen, and I am still very much in and adjacent to a lot of fandom circles. And for anyone who doesn't know what I mean when I say fandom, I mean as in being part of fan groups of stuff. And when people say they were in fandom as a teen, a lot of the time, especially if they look like me, what they mean was that they were in the supernatural fandom sort of circles, the anime fandom sort of circles. I was never a supernatural Hulock. Oh no, that's not how they... Super Hulock, that's what they used to call it, where you were a fan of Supernatural, Doctor Who, and Sherlock. Like, I liked Sherlock, but I didn't understand the people who were freaking obsessed with it, and I was never obsessed with Doctor Who. I used to watch it as a kid, but I never really got into the Doctor Who thing. But Supernatural I was obsessed with, and I'm still obsessed with, and still love, and I'm still disappointed by how bad the last season was. Anyway... As if it didn't go downhill right around season 5 and never recover. Although actually season 5 was good. It just didn't recover after season 5 when it started. It kept going and it shouldn't have. Anyway, not the point. What was the point? That I was in fandom circles, and that basically part of why was because, you know, there was any time that something in real life wasn't really working out for me, or, you know, when I wasn't feeling good about stuff, you know, fandom was a brilliant escape. And that's, I know a lot of people who are part of fandom groups, a lot of why it's so appealing to us is living in that fantasy land, being in that larger than life world, or, you know, dealing with the tragedies that are happening in a not real TV show. You know, it's brilliant watching the Winchester brothers suffer as they do through Supernatural, because they suffer in that show. I'd much rather watch them suffer than watch me suffer in real life. Because I can get all the big emotions out without actually having to deal with them properly. Anyway, and, you know, that's part of what I'm referencing in that lyric, I think, is that I will spend a lot of time in fandom, in fantasy circles, in fantasies in my own head rather than the real world, and that isn't, you know, that isn't really happy, because I'm escaping into them to be happier, but also that I will spend a lot of time thinking about how I am going to be happy in the future and making plans, like dreaming up the world in which I'm going to be happy and how I'm going to make it happen, and then not actually doing it, you know? Who else is guilty of that? Of just, you keep thinking about the big change that you're going to make to your life, or, you know, the next step you're going to take and how great it's going to be once you get there, but then you don't actually end up living that in real life, you know? I do that a lot. We know I do that a lot. You guys know I do that a lot. And then obviously we just repeat the initial refrain of the chorus of I used to think, but I change it from we were to this were. I used to think this was happy. Because I just wanted to change it up a little bit, and, you know, specifically say this existence was happy. Anywho, then we have our second verse. And the second verse, I think I've said before, is my favourite of the two verses. I like this verse better. The first verse is not bad, but I really like this verse. I'm searching for meaning, trying to give purpose to feelings. I need to feel needed. Isn't that the same for all of us? Both those lines are sort of referencing the same thing, but that first couple of I'm searching for meaning, trying to give purpose to feelings, I felt so clever when I wrote that. Thank you. No, but I really like that line because I think it just summed up exactly what I was trying to say. You know, a lot of the time we will want to try and give a meaning to the things we're feeling rather than just letting them be emotions. You know, I'm sad and I'm going to take my sadness and I'm going to do this with it. You know, this bad thing, it happened for a reason because there's a lesson I'm going to learn from it. And the truth is sometimes bad things just happen because they happen. And feeling sad isn't some big emotion that you're going to get up and do something with. Sometimes you just have to feel it and go through it. You can't be happy all the time. Genuine happiness isn't being happy all the time and there always being meaning for when you're sad. There's just accepting that sometimes bad things are going to happen and you're going to be sad. It's life lessons with Emma. Cheery, aren't they? I'm running in circles, losing my mind as all of this purpose feels like someone else chose it for me. Again, I'm much more saying what I mean in this one than I was in that first verse. Pretty obvious what I think what I meant here, because I'm literally just saying what I was trying to say. I just forgot what I was about to say. It just literally jumped out of my head. Give it a sec, it'll come back. Nope, it's gone. Whatever it was. But yeah, I think we all fall into the trap of letting other people's opinions and other people's plans and ideas about what our life should look like and what happiness should look like for a person affect us. You know, shame is a big motivator that it gets to you. Shame will get to you, even if you can act like, you know, the most confident person on the planet who never lets anybody else's opinions affect them. But the truth is, we all get a little bit affected by other people's opinions. And especially when it comes to what happiness looks like, you know. And I definitely, that was the big thing for me, because this lyric, I was, you know, specifically looking at the fact that I'd wasted a lot of my life just sort of coasting through and not really making any solid decisions about plans that I wanted to do and chasing dreams and goals I had, just seeing dreams as like these things that you didn't really chase, you just sort of had. It'd be nice if they work out. I do that all the time, but I am old. I do it all the time because I am permanently distracted by everything and I can't hold a thought in my head for longer than a few seconds, which is why I have bits of paper to organise my thoughts on. So and why my rooms are always a mess, why the studio is always a mess, and why these streams are always so chaotic. Because I'll get distracted by that light's bright, isn't it? That light's bright. Oh, nope, thought gone. Whatever I was about to say, gone. It's not coming back. It'll come back later and I'll yell it at my mum. And she'll be very pleased about that. Anyway. But yeah, I spent I wasted a lot of my life just not really making any decisions and plans for myself properly, you know, because I think I was a little bit scared to really actually make these decisions about these things. And it's just easier to follow the path that people keep telling you should. Plus, it's always quite difficult if you're not following the path that everybody else is. It's difficult to actually work out what it's going to look like and what your next step should be. So it's often a lot easier to just let people tell you who you're supposed to be. But obviously that wasn't making me happy, so we've stopped doing that now. For the most part. Anyway, then we have our chorus again. Obviously, I won't sing it through for you again because I did that all at the start. And then we're into our bridge section. And the bridge section was more about how it sounded than the lyrics itself. You know, the lyrics I added afterwards. I came up with the melody first, and I was just going. Because I knew I wanted quite a fast-paced section to contrast the gentler bits. And I wanted it nice and high up there like that, and I had in my head that the strings were going to go, doing all sorts of fun stuff here. I wanted lots of counter melodies in the strings, so that the strings are doing counter melodies. For those of you who are not music geeks and don't speak that language, it just means a melody that isn't the main melody that is going on at the same time as the main melody that is complementing it. So, you know, obviously in this song, I've got the main vocal melody going, and I've got some harmony type melodies going on in the strings where they're going, but they're also doing counter melodies like that, and all those sorts of things are in there too. If you go and listen to the track and really listen to what the strings are doing, you'll hear all the different interesting little melody bits that are in there, that just, not to brag or anything, but I did write those. I know I didn't end up playing the ones because I had originally written for violin, those string parts, and then written cello parts to go with the violin parts, but I didn't end up including the violin in the end because I'm just not good enough of a violinist. It wasn't going to complement the track, it was going to make it sound bad, and I didn't want to stretch the budget to hire a violinist to play one part on one song. Sad. I could have added MIDI violin, I suppose, but because I had a real cello, I felt like MIDI violin, none of the MIDI violins I had, none of the plugins I had for it was sounding good with the real life cello, and the cello sounded so nice that in the end I decided that the cello sounded so beautiful on it that it could just take the lead that the violin was meant to be doing. So we just boosted the cello in the original track. Anyway, but I did write those cello parts for the most part. There are a few cello parts in it that were just like little ad-libbed bits by Polly, that I did not write, that she added in. Like there's in the chorus, I think, she basically took the main melodies that I'd written for the parts, for the post-chorus bit and for in the bridge, and she vamped around those to create a new melody type thing to go in the accompaniment of the chorus. But the main motif that the cellos are doing, that was always in my head as going in this song. I had it from the moment I wrote it. I had this violin part playing in my head that I then worked out, and then worked out the harmonies on cello and stuff to go with. Anywho, but yeah, so I had that melody in my head for the bridge section and the idea of what it was going to sound like overall before I had the lyrics, and so I just then fitted lyrics in, and obviously we went with, 'cause we're just living, ticking boxes, watching ticking clocks and waiting on some say that everything will work out, we just have to hold out standing in this line. Pretty self-explanatory, following the same themes in those earlier verses of, well, especially in that last section of the second verse. It's definitely me referencing back again that idea that I've just been coasting through my life, doing things that I'm supposed to do, that I think I'm supposed to do, following a path that is just sort of laid out that you're supposed to normally follow, and not really thinking about whether it makes me happy. Watching ticking clocks, looking at, constantly thinking about how much time you have left, how much time you have wasted. This is one I do a lot. I spend a stupid amount of time, wasting more time, thinking about all the time that I wasted in my life and what I should have done with that time. And it's so stupid to sit around thinking about how the time you wasted, because now you're wasting time thinking about how you wasted time. And I know I've already written a song called Wasting Time, but I feel like I need to write another one called Wasting Time now that's just about that, about how much of my life I have wasted thinking about bits of my life that I wasted. And I really need to stop doing it, because there's no point to it other than to make me feel bad. It's just my brain attacking me. here, we're going to think about how you should have started doing this thing that you started doing recently 3 years ago. Well, we didn't start it 3 years ago, did we? We started it now. So how about you shut up about when we should have started it, brain, and start thinking about what we're going to do next. Anywho. And then we get into, wasting all the time. And then we get into, but I have all these questions trying to make some sense of how it arrived. 'Cause does this make us happy? Does this matter really? We got that C again. Yeah, again, pretty self-explanatory, you know. We're getting to the bit of the song now where I'm really ramming home the fact that the point of this song is not how unhappy I now am that I've realised that all this happiness was not actually going to make me happy, that all these things I was chasing were not actually going to make me happy, that I'm wasting time, how unhappy. The point of the song is not that, it's the fact that I'm sitting here and actually asking the questions now, and, you know, is this what you want to be doing? Does this thing you're stressing about actually matter in the grand scheme of things, the things you're stressing about? How about we stress about only the things that we actually need to stress about? How about we stop just doing things because that's what we're supposed to do if it's not something we actually need to do? And it doesn't actually look like the life we want to have, you know? Asking those questions before we finally go into the last chorus. And obviously the last chorus we have a little breakdown bit, so we got that. So I used to think this was... 'Cause I used to think we were happy. Then I woke up. Now when I picture me happy, I get choked up. And I used to think we were happy. We go for all the drama. Yeah. Because you gotta have a breakdown. You know, after you've had that a moment like that where you're saying, does this make us happy? Does this matter really? You need to have a nice quiet moment after that. I used to think we were happy. Yeah. Like I'm answering the moment. You know, I'm answering the question at the moment. Does this matter really? Well, no, I used to think this was happy, but... Anyway. Yeah. And that's the song. That is Woke Up. And like I said, it's going to be the third to last track on the album, if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering that right. And its main purpose is to, you know, sum up a lot of the emotions that I'm thinking about in other tracks. And as I wrote it, I didn't know if this was going to be a single when I first wrote it, but after we finished producing it, I was like, yes. People need to hear that cello, okay? They don't need to hear me whining all over this song, but they do need to hear that beautiful cello. It's the best thing about this song, if we're honest, is those beautiful strings. Because Polly did a freaking brilliant job. But yeah, that is the song. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I would love to know what you guys got from the song, if you got other things from the lyrics, if there's anything that it made you think of, or made you feel, or reminded you of. Then, you know, I always love hearing those sorts of things from you guys, so feel free to leave comments and stuff, saying what you thought of the song, what you felt from it. Not the first. Definitely not the first. Yeah, let me know what you got from it, if you got that overall vibe I was trying to give you, or if there are any other emotions it made you feel. Because obviously songs affect people in different ways and people get things from lyrics that weren't necessarily originally intended. Anywho, there will be a music video on Thursday. I'm pretty sure it's already scheduled. Yeah, it is already scheduled. I'm pretty sure. The cello is haunting. It is freaking beautiful. Love Polly. Love her. Anyway, you should listen to her. She put a new track out recently. If I remember, I'll try and stick it in the comments or something for people to go look at. It's absolutely stunning. She goes by Polly Ver. If you just want to stick Polly Ver, I think with a double R. I think it's VIRR. I can't remember if that's exactly correct, but I think it's Polly Ver, VIRR. If you put that in, you should find her on Spotify, or, you know, whatever streaming or buying service you use. But yeah, beautiful track. Anyway, there is a music video scheduled. The premiere will be happening on Thursday at 8 p.m. I will be in the chat. You probably want to pop in a bit before 8 p.m. because usually what happens, the premiere starts exactly 8 p.m. but there's a little countdown in advance. So if you are around on Thursday evening, I will be in the chat of the music video. You guys can watch me prance about in flowers and roll around in a bed. That's what I did for that music video. I'm really excited for you guys to see that as well, because it's actually turned out pretty well for what was probably the cheapest one I've made yet. It literally cost me, I think, £10 in flowers, I think is what I spent on this music video. Isn't that great? Because I'm not counting the fabric that I used in the backdrop, because I bought that for the vocal booth and then just used it for another job as well. Anyway, I need to go because the camera battery is proper flashing at me, and I need to pee. As always, that's how we always end streams. But yeah, join me on Thursday for the music video, and next Tuesday I'll be streaming again to do the demos versus final version stream, where we'll go through how the song evolved sonically through the different stages. But yeah, for tonight I shall say toodles, guys. Bye! Bear with while I get this up and bye!